I am Naomi D'Souza, born on March 14, 1987 in Lagos State, Nigeria, and I used my voice as a weapon in the spirit realm against believers who never knew they were under attack. I am not here to tell you a story I heard. I am here to confess what I personally did, what I spoke, and how your own words became legal doors for delay. We did not fear your prayers. We waited for your careless words. That was our access. That was our invitation. Right now, you must like this video, comment, and share it with urgency, because what you are about to hear is not common knowledge. It is forbidden truth being exposed. Watch this until the very end, because one sentence, just one wrong word, can keep your destiny locked longer than any curse ever could. This is not a warning for the weak. This is a revelation for those ready to break delay permanently. There was a phrase we waited to hear, not from unbelievers, not from the lost, from you, the one who prays, the one who believes, the one who thinks you are protected. The first word, the first dangerous word, was simple: I can't. It sounds harmless, it feels human, it appears normal, but in the spirit realm it was a signal, a legal opening, a door. I remember one assignment clearly. A woman, faithful, prayerful, consistent, we could not touch her. Every attempt failed, every projection collapsed, until one day she spoke. I can't keep doing this anymore. That was it. That was all we needed. Because when she said those words, she didn't just express emotion, she surrendered authority. You don't understand this yet, but your words are not just sounds. They are agreements, spiritual contracts, declarations that shape what is permitted around you. When you say, I can't, you are not just describing weakness, you are authorizing limitation and stepping into agreement with defeat, and in that moment we were allowed to move, not because we were powerful, but because she gave us permission. This is what most believers never realize. We didn't break your protection. We waited for you to lower it yourself. And I can't was one of the fastest ways you did it. We monitored conversations, quietly, patiently. Not your loud prayers, but your private frustrations. That moment when you're alone, tired, overwhelmed, and you whisper, I can't handle this, I can't move forward, I can't do this anymore. Each time you said it, something shifted, not emotionally. Spiritually, it was like watching a gate unlock from the inside. You see, in the realm I came from, words carried weight, not because of volume, but because of agreement. And when your words agreed with weakness, delay was assigned immediately, because delay feeds on doubt. And I can't is the language of doubt. We didn't even need to fight you after that. You started fighting yourself. Your confidence dropped. Your clarity faded. Your direction became confused. And everything that once moved quickly slowed down. Doors that were opening paused. Opportunities that were near drifted. Not because they disappeared, but because you stepped out of position. Do you see it now? It wasn't just a bad day. It wasn't just stress. It was alignment. And alignment determines access. There was another case. A man preparing for a major breakthrough. Everything was lined up. Connections, timing, favor. We couldn't interfere. Until he said, I can't trust this. It's too good to be true. That sentence, that one statement shifted everything, because now he wasn't just doubting the opportunity, he was rejecting it. And rejection creates delay. Instantly, we moved in. Not forcefully, legally, because his words gave us ground. And within weeks, everything slowed. Communication broke. Misunderstandings increased. The opportunity slipped. And he never knew why. He blamed people. He blamed timing. But we knew the truth. It started with his words. I can't. This is why I am speaking now. Because many of you are not under attack the way you think. You are under agreement. Agreement with limitation. Agreement with fear. Agreement with delay. And it is coming from your mouth. Listen carefully. Every time you say I can't, you are reinforcing a ceiling over your own life. You are telling the unseen realm, do not allow progress here. And it obeys. Not because darkness is strong, but because authority was misused. Your voice was designed to build, to establish, to command movement. But when you speak defeat, you reverse your own power. This is why some of you pray for hours, but still feel stuck. Because your prayers say one thing, and your words say another. And in the realm of the spirit, consistency matters, alignment matters, agreement matters. You cannot declare victory in prayer and declare defeat in conversation and expect movement. It doesn't work that way. We exploited that contradiction every time. We didn't need to curse you. We let you cancel yourself. That is the truth. And it is heavy because it means the delay you've been fighting may have been reinforced by you. But listen to me carefully. This is not to condemn you. This is to wake you up. Because the moment you become aware, the power shifts immediately. The same mouth that said I can't can say I will. The same voice that agreed with delay can break it. But it starts with recognition. It starts with discipline. You must become conscious of your words, not just when you're strong, but when you're weak, because that is when it matters most. That is when we listened the hardest. That is when we waited for that one sentence, that one agreement. I can't, and once it was spoken, delay was no longer an attack. It became a permission. The second word was even more dangerous because it sounded spiritual, it sounded patient, it sounded calm. But in the realm where I operated, it was one of the strongest invitations for delay. The word was later, not never, not I refuse, just later. Say it every day. I'll pray later, I'll fix it later, I'll start later, I'll obey later. And you don't realize every time you say it, something is postponed beyond your control. I remember how we used this word against believers who were close to breakthrough. Very close. Closer than they ever imagined. There was a man, disciplined, consistent, focused. He had been preparing for a major shift in his life. Everything was aligning, spiritually, mentally, even physically. We could not stop what was coming because he was in position. Until one moment, just one, he felt the urge to pray. A strong one, clear, direct. But he looked at the time, he felt a little tired, and he said it, I'll do it later. That one sentence shifted the timing, and timing is everything. You don't understand this yet, but delay does not always come by distraction. Sometimes it comes by postponement, a small shift, a slight hesitation, a quiet later, and suddenly you miss a moment that cannot be recreated. That's what we waited for, not your failure, your delay, because delay weakens momentum. And momentum is what carries breakthrough into manifestation. The moment he said later, we didn't attack him. We didn't need to. We simply extended the gap. That prayer he postponed was connected to a door scheduled to open. But doors in the spirit do not stay open forever. They respond to timing, precision, alignment. And when he delayed his response, the door delayed its opening. Days passed, then weeks. And everything that was supposed to happen quickly slowed down. He still prayed eventually. He still tried, but the timing had shifted. And what was once easy became difficult. What was once smooth became complicated. And he never knew why. He thought it was normal. He thought delays just happen. But I am telling you the truth. They don't just happen. They are often triggered. And later is one of the most common triggers. Because it feels harmless. It feels reasonable. Spiritually, it is dangerous. Because later is disobedience wrapped in comfort. It is hesitation disguised as wisdom. It is delay disguised as control. And every time you choose later, you are stepping out of divine timing. You are disconnecting from flow. You are creating space for interference. We loved when believers said later, because it meant we didn't have to fight their faith. We just had to wait. Wait for the delay to do its work. Wait for the momentum to fade. Wait for the fire to cool. Because once that happens, even strong believers begin to struggle. Have you noticed it? That moment when you feel inspired, ready, focus, and then you delay. I'll start tomorrow, I'll handle it later. And suddenly the next day comes and the energy is gone. The clarity is gone. The urgency is gone. That is not coincidence. That is spiritual timing being disrupted. You see, there are moments when heaven aligns everything for you. A perfect window, a perfect opportunity, a perfect push. But those moments require immediate response, immediate obedience, immediate action. And when you delay, you miss alignment. That's when delay enters. Not because something attacked you, but because you stepped out of position. There was a woman we monitored for months. She was about to make a decision that would change her life. A bold move, a necessary move. Everything confirmed it. But fear whispered, and she responded with one word: later. That decision was never made. She kept postponing, kept delaying, kept saying later until later became never. And her life stayed in the same place, not because she lacked power, but because she delayed action. This is how delay works. It doesn't always block you. It slows you down, quietly, gradually, until you stop moving. And the most dangerous part? You don't even notice it, because it feels normal. It feels like life, but it is not. It is spiritual interference through your own words. Later, a simple word, but a powerful agreement. Because when you say later, you are telling the spirit realm, not now. And when it's not now, it may not come again the same way. That opportunity, that connection, that breakthrough moment, timing matters. And delay destroys timing. Listen to me carefully. You cannot afford to delay what you are called to do. You cannot afford to postpone what requires urgency. Because every time you do, you create space for delay to grow. And delay, if left unchecked, becomes stagnation. This is why I'm warning you, not as someone guessing, but as someone who used this system, who exploited these moments, who watched believers miss their own breakthroughs because of one word, later. But hear this, you still have power, you still have authority. And the moment you shift your response, everything changes. Instead of later, you say now. Instead of postponing, you move. Instead of delaying, you act. Because immediate obedience destroys delay completely. And once you understand this, you will never treat your timing casually again. You will move with urgency, with precision, with awareness. Because now you know delay doesn't always come from outside. Sometimes it comes from one word, later. The third word was quiet, not loud, not emotional, not even negative on the surface. But in the realm where I once operated, it was one of the most effective triggers of delay. The word was maybe. It sounds harmless, it sounds flexible, it even sounds wise. But spiritually, it is dangerous because maybe is the language of uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens authority. I need you to understand something clearly. In the spirit realm, things do not respond to hesitation. They respond to certainty, to conviction, to clarity, to firm agreement. And when you say maybe, you are stepping out of certainty, you are stepping into confusion. And confusion is a breeding ground for delay. I remember how we watched believers who were on the edge of breakthrough. They had prayed, they had fasted, they had prepared. Everything was ready. But when the moment came to act, they hesitated. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe this won't work. That word maybe slowed everything down because now they were divided within themselves. Part of them wanted to move forward, another part held back, and that division created a gap we could use. You see, delay does not always need force. Sometimes it just needs hesitation, and maybe creates hesitation instantly. There was a woman we followed closely. She had been praying for direction, crying out for clarity, asking for a sign. And when the answer finally came, clear, confirmed, she responded with one word. Maybe that single response disconnected her from the answer she had been waiting for. Because now she was no longer in agreement. She was questioning, doubting, second guessing. And the moment she did that, everything slowed. The clarity she once had faded. The confidence she felt disappeared. And the path that was once obvious became blurred. Not because it changed, but because her agreement changed. This is what you must understand. Your words don't just describe your thoughts, they establish your position. And maybe it's not a position, it is a pause, a suspension, a refusal to fully align. And in that state, nothing moves. That is why delay loves uncertainty. Because uncertainty keeps you stuck. You don't move forward, you don't move backward, you just stay waiting, thinking, doubting. And while you are stuck in maybe, time is moving. Opportunities are shifting, doors are closing. And you don't even realize it because you think you are being careful. But spiritually, you are being inactive. We didn't need to push believers into failure. We only needed to keep them in maybe. Because as long as they stayed there, they would never fully step into what was prepared for them. Have you experienced this? That moment when you feel something strongly, you know what you should do, but then a thought comes, maybe I should wait, and suddenly you stop, you delay, you hesitate. That is not wisdom, that is interference. Because true clarity does not produce hesitation, it produces movement, it produces action, it produces confidence. But maybe breaks that flow, it interrupts alignment. And once alignment is broken, delay enters. There was a man who had an opportunity to expand his business. Everything was ready, the resources were there, the connections were in place. But when the moment came to decide, he said it. Maybe I should think about it more. That maybe cost him everything. Because while he was thinking, someone else moved, someone else took the opportunity. And he was left wondering what happened. What happened was hesitation. What happened was delay, triggered by one word. Maybe. This is how subtle it is. This is how quiet it is. You don't feel attacked. You don't feel blocked. You just feel and that uncertainty keeps you from moving. But listen to me carefully. You were not created to live in maybe. You were not designed to function in doubt. You were not given authority to hesitate. Your voice carries power, and power requires decision, clarity, conviction. You must learn to recognize when maybe is trying to enter your speech, because the moment it does, you are at risk of delay. Instead of saying maybe, you must say, I know thy will, I am ready. Because certainty restores alignment, and alignment restores movement. We feared believers who spoke with certainty, not because they were loud, but because they were aligned. There was no gap, no hesitation, no confusion, and without that gap, we had no access. That is the level you must reach, a place where your words are firm, clear, undivided. Because once you remove maybe from your language, you remove one of the strongest doors of delay. Completely. No more hesitation, no more second guessing, number, more internal division, only clarity, only movement, only progress. Because now you are no longer speaking uncertainty, you are speaking authority. And authority does not delay. The fourth word was not spoken loudly, it was whispered, repeated, accepted, believed. And over time it became a chain. The word was why. Not the kind of why that seeks understanding, but the kind that questions everything when things don't go your way. Why is this happening to me? Why is my life like this? Why am I always delayed? Why does nothing ever work out? You think you are asking questions, but in the realm I came from, we saw something different. We saw agreement with frustration, agreement with confusion, agreement with delay. Let me show you how dangerous this is. There was a woman deeply committed, spiritually active. She prayed constantly, she fasted, she believed. But nothing seemed to change. At least that's what she thought. Because things were moving, slowly, strategically, precisely. But she couldn't see it. And one day she broke, not physically, but internally. And she said it. Why is God not answering me? That sentence shifted her position, because now she was no longer standing in trust. She stepped into doubt. And doubt is where delay grows stronger. You must understand something clearly. There is a difference between seeking understanding and speaking frustration. One builds clarity, the other builds resistance, and resistance slows everything down. When you constantly ask why from a place of frustration, you are reinforcing the problem. You are focusing on the delay instead of moving through it. And whatever you focus on, you empower. That's what we exploited. We didn't need to create problems. We just needed you to focus on them, to repeat them, to question them, until they became bigger in your mind than your faith. Every time you said why in frustration, it was like feeding delay, strengthening it, giving it more space to operate. There was a man we observed for years, strong, focused, disciplined, but life hit him hard, unexpected challenges, repeated setbacks, and slowly his language changed. He began to ask, why does this keep happening? At first it was occasional, then it became frequent, then it became his identity. Everything was why. And the more he asked, the more stuck he became. Not because answers weren't available, but because his focus was wrong. He wasn't moving forward. He was circling the same question, again and again. And that repetition created stagnation. This is what you must see. Why can trap you? It can keep you looking backward instead of moving forward. It can keep you analyzing pain instead of overcoming it. And when that happens, delay is no longer temporary. It becomes a pattern. We didn't fear believers who asked why from frustration, because we knew they were stuck. Their energy was divided. Their focus was scattered. Their movement was limited. But we feared those who shifted their language, those who stopped asking why me and started declaring, this will not stop me, I will move forward, I will overcome. Because that shift breaks delay. Instantly, there was a moment, a powerful one, when a woman we had monitored for months changed her words. She had been stuck, confused, delayed, always asking why. But one day, she stopped, she paused, and instead of asking, she declared, I don't need to understand everything, I just need to move. That sentence destroyed everything we had built around her, because now she was no longer feeding delay, she was breaking through it. Movement returned, clarity returned, momentum returned, and we lost access completely. This is what you must learn. You don't need to understand every delay. You don't need to have every answer, because understanding is not what moves you forward. Action is. Faith is. Consistency is. When you get stuck in why, you slow yourself down, you drain your energy, you trap your focus. But when you shift, when you decide to move regardless, everything changes. Listen carefully. You are not called to sit in confusion. You are not designed to live in frustration. You are not meant to stay in delay. But your words can either trap you or release you. Why used wrongly becomes a trap, a cycle, a loop you cannot escape unless you break it. And you break it by changing your language. Instead of asking why, say, what's next? How do I move forward? What can I do now? Because those questions create movement. They shift your focus. They align you with progress. And progress, we knew this. That's why we pushed frustration. That's why we waited for that one word. Why? Because as long as you stayed there, you stayed stuck. But now you know the truth. Now you see the pattern. And once you see it, you can break it completely. No more cycles, no more confusion, no more delay fed by your own words. Because now you are aware, and awareness is the beginning of freedom. The fifth word was the most dangerous of them all. Not because it was loud, not because it was repeated often. It carried finality. The word was it's over. Three simple words. But in the realm I came from, this was not just a statement, it was a declaration of surrender. And surrender, when spoken wrongly, hands everything over to delay. I need you to listen carefully. There is a difference between something ending and you declaring that it is over. Because when you say it's over from a place of defeat, you are not just describing a situation, you are sealing it. You are closing doors that were not meant to be closed. You are shutting down possibilities that were still alive. I remember a woman, strong, focused, faithful. She had been fighting for something important, a breakthrough that mattered deeply to her life. She prayed, she pushed, she endured. And for a long time, nothing seemed to change. But what she didn't know was that things were very close, closer than ever before. Everything was aligning behind the scenes, quietly, precisely, strategically, but she couldn't see it. And in one moment of exhaustion, she said it. It's over. That sentence changed everything, not because her situation ended, but because her agreement shifted. She stepped out of expectation and into finality. And finality stops movement. Immediately, we didn't need to fight her after that. We didn't need to interfere. Because she had already closed the door herself. This is what you must understand. Your words don't just express feelings, they establish outcomes. And when you declare it's over in defeat, you are finalizing something that may not be finished. You are ending a process that was still in motion. You are cutting off what was about to manifest. We watched this happen again and again. Believers who were so close, but they couldn't see it. They couldn't feel it. And in their frustration, they spoke those three words. It's over. And every time progress stopped, momentum died, and delay took over completely. There was a man on the edge of a breakthrough in his career. Everything had been building for months. Connections were forming. Opportunities were aligning. But delays came. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. And slowly his patience wore thin. Until one day he said it. I'm done. It's over. That was it. That was the moment everything shifted. Not because the opportunity disappeared, but because he withdrew from it. His words disconnected him from what was still available. And someone else stepped in, took the opportunity, moved forward, and he was left behind. Not because he lacked ability, but because he declared an ending too soon. This is how serious this is. You don't always lose because something was taken from you. Sometimes you lose because you let go too early, because you declared something finished when it was still unfolding. And it's over, one of the fastest ways to do that. We didn't fear believers who struggled. We didn't fear those who felt tired. We didn't even fear those who questioned. But we feared those who refused to declare defeat. Those who said, I will keep going. This is not the end. I am not finished. Because those words keep doors open. They maintain alignment. They preserve momentum. And without that momentum, we had no access. But the moment someone said it's over, everything changed. Because now they were no longer in position. They stepped out of expectation, out of belief, out of movement and into stillness. And stillness, when it comes from defeat, becomes delay, permanent delay. Unless it is broken, listen to me carefully. You must never declare an ending based on what you see, because what you see is not the full picture. There are things moving behind the scenes, alignments you cannot detect, doors you cannot yet see. And the moment you say it's over, you cut yourself off from all of it. This is why discipline in your words is critical. Not just when things are good, but when things look impossible. That is when your words matter most. That is when your declarations carry the most weight. You must train yourself to say, "This is not the end, or I am still moving. It is not finished." Because those words keep you connected. They keep you aligned. They keep things in motion. And motion destroys delay. We knew this. That's why we waited for that moment of weakness, that moment of exhaustion, that moment when you feel like giving up. Because if we could get you to say it, "It's over," we didn't need to do anything else. You would stop yourself. But now, you see it now. You understand. And once you understand, you can resist it. You can refuse to declare defeat. You can choose your words carefully, because your words are not just expressions, they are decisions, they are alignments, they are outcomes in motion. And the moment you stop saying "it's over," reopen doors. Immediately, you restore flow, you reactivate movement. And delay loses its power. The sixth word was the most subtle, the most common, the most accepted, and yet one of the most destructive, because almost everyone says it without thinking, without awareness, without understanding what it does. The word was nothing. Nothing is working, that nothing is changing, that nothing ever happens for me, that nothing is moving in my life. You say it casually. But in the realm where I once operated, this word was powerful, because nothing creates emptiness. And emptiness cancels expectation. Let me explain this carefully. Expectation is what keeps things moving toward you. It is what pulls opportunities closer. It is what aligns events in your favor. But when you say nothing, you erase expectation, you declare absence, you confirm stagnation. And whatever you confirm becomes your experience. There was a man, faithful, consistent, patient. He had been working towards something important, and progress was happening, slow but steady. But because it wasn't fast enough, he couldn't see it, he couldn't feel it. And one day, he said it, "Nothing is happening." That sentence shifted his entire reality, because now he was no longer acknowledging progress, he was denying it. And when you deny movement, you disconnect from it. That's when delay strengthens. Not because nothing is happening, but because you believe nothing is happening. And belief shapes your alignment. We use this word often because it was easy, natural, common. We didn't need to push it. People said it on their own, out of frustration, out of impatience, out of comparison. Nothing is working. And every time they said it, they reinforced stillness. They slowed their own momentum. They disconnected from what was already in motion. There was a woman we observed closely. She had been praying for change, for growth, for breakthrough, and things were happening. Small shifts, subtle progress. But she ignored them because she expected something big, something instant. And when she didn't see it, she said, "Nothing is changing." That was not true. But in the spirit realm, truth is not what you see, it is what you agree with. And when she agreed with nothing, she aligned herself with stagnation, and everything slowed down. Not because progress stopped, but because she stepped out of agreement with it. This is what you must understand. Your words shape your awareness, and your awareness shapes your experience. If you constantly say nothing, you train yourself to see nothing, even when things are moving, even when doors are opening, even when progress is happening. You miss it because your words have already decided what is real. We didn't fear believers who faced slow progress. We feared those who recognized it, those who said, "Something is happening, I see movement, I am progressing." Because those words strengthen alignment, they build expectation, they pull more progress forward. But nothing does the opposite, it shuts everything down. There was a moment I will never forget. A man who had been struggling for years, delays, setbacks, frustrations, but slowly things started shifting, quietly, subtly. He got a new opportunity, a new connection, a new direction. But because it didn't look like his expectation, he dismissed it and said, "This is nothing." That moment disconnected him from the very thing that was meant to change his life, because he minimized it, he ignored it, he rejected it. And when you reject progress, you delay manifestation completely. Listen to me carefully. Not everything starts big, not everything appears dramatic. Sometimes your breakthrough begins as something small, something easy to overlook, something quiet. But if you call it nothing, you lose it, you disconnect from it, and delay continues. This is why awareness is critical. You must learn to recognize movement even when it is small. You must train your mind to see progress, to acknowledge it, to speak it, because your words reinforce your reality. If you say nothing, you will experience nothing. If you say something is happening, you will see more, you will feel more, you will move more. This is how alignment works. And alignment determines speed. We exploited this constantly. We didn't need to block people. We just needed them to mislabel their reality, to call progress nothing, to call movement nothing. And once they did, they slowed themselves down. But now you see it. Now you understand. And once you understand, you can change it. You can shift your words. You can realign your perspective. You can recognize what is happening. And once you do, everything accelerates. Because now you are no longer canceling your progress. You are confirming it. You are strengthening it. You are moving with it. No more nothing. No more denial. No more blindness to your own growth. Because now you are aware, and awareness restores movement immediately. Delay cannot survive when you align your words with truth. You have heard the truth, and now you are accountable for every word that leaves your mouth. Delay is not your destiny, but your words can either break it or bind it permanently. From this moment forward, you will not speak defeat, hesitation, or emptiness over your life again. You will speak with authority, with clarity, with unshakable conviction. Comment now and declare, I break every delay in my life. Then share this message because someone near you is still trapped in ignorance. You watched this until the end for a reason, because this revelation was meant to shift your life completely. Now move, speak right, and watch everything that was delayed begin to release with power.